The spotlight hit him like a freight train, blinding and unyielding. As Alex Rivera gripped the podium on the edge of the Yale Quad stage, his heart slamming against his ribs like it was trying to escape. "Family isn't just blood," he whispered to himself, voice cracking before the sea of black gowns below. But the words dissolved into the humid June air of New Haven, Connecticut, where the elms whispered secrets no one cared to hear. And then, from the back row, a single voice pierced the murmur. A low, ragged sob that wasn't his, turning every head, including the dean's, toward a lone figure in the shadows who clutched a faded photo like a lifeline. Eyes locked on Alex as if the world had just cracked open. Alex had always known his family back in rural Ohio wouldn't make the trip. Not after the letters stopped coming. Not after the holiday cards turned to radio silence. Not after his coming out email 2 years ago had bounced back undelivered, marked recipient unknown. But hope, that stubborn bastard, had wormed its way in anyway. He'd pictured his mom, Elena, in her Sunday best, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue embroidered by his abuela. His dad, Marco, stoic in his flannel, nodding approval from the bleachers like he used to at Little League games. Even his little sister, Sophia, 13 now and all sharp edges, might have snuck him a smirk, whispering "nerd alert" under her breath. Yale's commencement was the pinnacle, the proof he'd clawed his way out of the cornfields and into something bigger. 4 years of late-night cram sessions in the Sterling Memorial Library, dodging microaggressions from poli-sci profs who mistook his accent for affirmative action. Building a thesis on queer Latinx voices in American policy that had the department head tearing up during defenses. This was his shot to show them. "Look, I made it without you." The quad buzzed with pre-ceremony chaos. Parents snapping selfies with overinflated balloons. Alumni in boat shoes clinking champagne flutes. The air thick with sunscreen and ambition. Alex smoothed his gown, the synthetic fabric sticking to his sweat-damp skin, and scanned the crowd from his seat in the front row of graduates. No familiar faces, just a sea of strangers. A silver-haired couple beaming at their daughter. A cluster of South Asian families unfurling a banner that read, "Proud of our Priya." His stomach twisted, a familiar ache blooming behind his breastbone. He told himself it didn't matter. He'd built a family here. In the cramped apartment off campus with his roommate-turned-soulmate, Javi Morales, who'd flown in from Miami just for this. In the queer alliance meetings where he'd found his voice. In the quiet nights tangled in sheets, whispering dreams that felt too fragile to voice aloud. Javi. God, Javi. They'd met freshman year in a mandatory ethics seminar. Alex buried in notes on Rawls while Javi doodled caricatures of the professor on his syllabus. "You look like you're solving world hunger over there." Javi had leaned over, his grin all dimples and danger, dark curls falling into eyes the color of café con leche. Alex had stammered something about distributive justice, but it was Javi's laugh, rich, unfiltered, like merengue spilling from a speaker, that hooked him. 6 months of stolen glances turned to coffee runs at Blue State, turned to that first kiss under the fairy lights of Toad's Place during Pride Week, rain-slicked and electric. Javi, with his easy charm and unshakable faith in Alex's fire, had become the anchor. "Mi amor," he'd murmur in the mornings, tracing the constellation of freckles across Alex's collarbone. "You're gonna change the world, and I'll be right there, holding the sign that says, 'Told you so.'" But today, even Javi's presence in the audience couldn't fill the void. Alex's phone had buzzed at dawn with a text from his mom. "Traffic's hell, Mijo. We'll be there by the speeches." That was 6 hours ago. Now, as the procession music swelled, pomp and circumstance on steroids, brass horns blaring like a call to arms, the empty seats beside the aisle where they'd promised to sit mocked him. He forced a smile for the kid next to him, a theater major named Theo who was already tipsy on pre-game mimosas. "Nervous?" Theo asked, adjusting his tassel. "Nah," Alex lied, throat tight, "just ready to get this over with." The ceremony kicked off with the usual pomp. The university president, a wiry woman named Hargrove with a voice like aged whiskey, droning about Yale's legacy of bold inquiry. Graduates fidgeted, programs rustling like dry leaves. Alex's mind wandered to the farm back home. the creak of the screen door, the smell of frijoles simmering on the stove, Sophia's laughter echoing through the fields as she chased fireflies. Before the email, before the fallout. His dad had found out first, walking in on Alex and his high school crush, Tommy Ruiz, fumbling in the barn loft one sticky July afternoon. Marco's face had gone thundercloud dark, belt unbuckling not for punishment but for emphasis. "This ain't us, Alejandro. This ain't God's plan." The words had branded him hot and indelible. Elena had cried for weeks, whispering prayers over rosaries, while Sophia, too young to grasp it, just asked why Alex didn't play baseball anymore. The email was his Hail Mary. "I'm gay, but I'm still your son. Still love you." The silence that followed was louder than any shout. By the time Hargrove wrapped up, the sun hung high, turning the quad into a furnace. Valedictorian speeches followed, polished, predictable paeans to perseverance. Alex tuned out, fingers drumming his knee, until his name echoed from the mic. Alexander Rivera, Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, with highest honors. The crowd's polite applause washed over him as he rose, gown swishing, cap nearly slipping. Up the steps, across the stage, hand extended for the diploma. Flashbulbs popped like distant gunfire. He scanned again, nothing. No Elena waving frantically, no Marco's proud grunt. Just Javi, dead center, standing on his seat, whooping like a fool, his sign. Hand scrawled in Sharpie on poster board. Thrust high. Alex Rivera, future president. Love you, nerd. It almost broke him. He grinned through the tears, pricking his eyes, pumping his fist back. But as he descended the stairs, the dean's voice boomed. "And now, a special address from one of our graduating seniors, Alexander Rivera, selected for his outstanding thesis on intersectional advocacy." Alex froze mid-step. Selected? He'd known about the speech, hell, he'd rehearsed it 100 times in front of Javi's mirror. But in that moment, with the void yawning wider, it felt like a cruel joke. The crowd hushed, expectant. He climbed back up, heart a war drum, and gripped the podium again. "Ladies, gentlemen, fellow bulldogs," he began, voice steadier than he felt. "We stand here today not because we're flawless, but because we've learned to carry our flaws like badges." The words flowed, pulling from his thesis. Stories of queer kids in red states, Lading's families fractured by borders both literal and figurative. He spoke of resilience, of love as revolution. The crowd leaned in, parents nodding, grads whispering approvals. But midway through, as he hit the line about chosen family, his gaze snagged on that figure in the shadows. A woman, mid-40s, Hispanic features softened by grief, clutching that photo. Him at 8, gap-toothed and beaming in a too-big baseball jersey. Elena, but alone. No Marco. No Sophia. And the way she sobbed, shoulders shaking, it wasn't joy. It was something shattered. The auditorium's energy shifted, a ripple of unease. Whispers spread. "Is that his mom? What's wrong with her?" Alex faltered, words tangling. This was the betrayal he'd braced for but never truly believed in. The promise broken, the love withheld. He pushed on, voice rising. "Family isn't given. It's forged in the fires we walk through together." But inside he was crumbling. Javi caught his eye, mouthing, "You've got this." But even that lifeline felt frayed. As he wrapped up, "So here's to us, the misfits who make the map." The applause erupted, thunderous, but it was the crowd's response that ignited everything. Not polite claps, but a roar. Grads leaping to their feet, parents joining in. A chant starting from the back. "Alex! Alex! Alex!" Until the whole quad pulsed with it. Signs unfurled like flags of surrender. "We see you, Alex. Proud ally." Javi led the charge, scaling the stage barrier with a bouquet of sunflowers, dropping to one knee not in proposal but in solidarity, pulling Alex into a hug that tasted of salt and sweat and home. The dean, bemused, handed him the mic again. "The floor is yours, Mr. Rivera." And that's when the thrill hit. A dramatic surge, gay can as the Vietnamese say, heart-pounding and inevitable. Because in that moment, As Elena's sobs cut through the cheers like a siren's wail, Alex realized the crowd wasn't just clapping for his words. They were claiming him. Strangers who'd never known his pain were weaving him into their tapestry, their ovation a blanket against the cold rejection. But the real conflict brewed in the wings. Marco, storming up the aisle, faced a mask of fury, Sophia trailing wide-eyed behind. The betrayal wasn't just absence. It was arrival, weaponized. Marco Rivera barreled through the throng like a bull through China, his work boots scuffing the grass, calloused hands clenched into fists that had once built fences and broken dreams. "Alejandro!" he bellowed, voice slicing the adulation, drawing gasps from the front rows. Sophia clung to his sleeve, her braids frayed from the 8-hour drive, eyes darting between her brother on stage and the father whose rage seemed to suck the oxygen from the air. Elena stumbled after them, the photo crumpling in her grip, her pleas lost in the din. "Marco, poor favor, not here, not now." Alex's world narrowed to pinpricks. Javi's arm around his waist, steady as rebar. The dean's hand hovering uncertainly on his shoulder. The crowd's cheers faltering into a stunned hush, like the moment before a storm breaks. This was the climax he'd dreaded in nightmares. The collision of worlds, his hard-won acceptance crashing against the unyielding wall of blood ties. Marco vaulted the low barrier, red-faced and wheezing, the veins in his neck bulging like rivers on a map. "What the hell is this circus?" he spat, jabbing a finger at the signs, at Javi's unyielding stance. "Parading your sickness for the world? We drove all night for this." The word sickness landed like a gut punch, echoing off the ivy-clad walls of Harkness Tower. Alex's breath hitched, the romantic glow of the moment curdling into something raw, exposed. He'd scripted 1,000 responses in therapy sessions back in New Haven, cool deflections, heartfelt pleas, but none for this public vivisection. Javi stepped forward, his usual easy swagger hardening into protection, voice low and laced with Miami steel. "Sir, this is his day. Back off." But Marco wasn't backing off. He rounded on Alex, eyes wild with a mix of betrayal and something deeper, unspoken fear, perhaps, of the son who'd outgrown the box he'd built. "Your mother cried the whole way here, Mijo. Cried because you threw us away for him." He sneered at Javi, who flinched but held ground. Sophia whimpered, "Daddy, stop." But Marco barreled on, voice rising to a thunderclap. "We gave you everything, church, school, a name, and you repay us with this shame? In front of God and everybody." The crowd murmured, a tide turning. A few parents shifted uncomfortably, whispering about family drama. But others, queer kids in the graduate rows, allies who'd marched in last year's Pride rally, bristled. Theo, the theater kid, shouted from his seat, "Hey, let him celebrate." It sparked like dry tinder. Murmurs to cheers, cheers to chants. Let him be. Let him be. The Quad, that bastion of East Coast elitism, transformed into an unlikely arena of empathy. The energy electric, thrilling in its unpredictability. Hargrove cleared her throat into the mic. "Please, let's maintain decorum." But her words drowned in the swell. Alex's chest heaved, emotions crashing in waves. Fury at Marco's gall, grief for the father he'd lost. A fierce, protective love for Javi that burned brighter than the betrayal. He stepped forward, mic in hand, voice amplified and unbreakable. "Dad, you think this is shame? This?" He swept an arm over the roaring crowd. "This is love, real love, the kind that shows up. Not the kind that shows up to tear down." Tears tracked hot down his cheeks, but his chin lifted, defiant. Elena reached them then, collapsing against the stage steps, sobbing apologies into her hands. "I'm sorry, Alejandro. He wouldn't let us. I tried." Sophia broke free, scrambling up to hug Alex's legs, her small voice muffled against his gown. "I missed you. I drew you a card in the car." That cracked him open. He knelt, pulling her close, inhaling the faint scent of strawberry shampoo and home. Marco loomed, face crumpling from rage to ruin, the fight draining like air from a punctured tire. "You were supposed to be our boy," he muttered. But there was no venom left, just hollow defeat. Javi hovered, hand on Alex's back, a silent vow. "I'm here. Always." The crowd's response crested then, a wave of humanity that washed over the fracture. Not just cheers, but individuals surging forward. A burly linebacker type enveloping Marco in a bear hug, murmuring, "We've all been there, man." A professor slipping Elena a handkerchief, saying, "He's brilliant, your son. Proud of him." Grads forming a human chain, linking arms to shield the family from prying phones. It was dramatic, heart-stopping. The raw thrill of strangers becoming saviors, turning a personal implosion into collective catharsis. Alex rose, Sophia in his arms, Javi at his side, and for the first time he felt the weight lift. Not gone, but shared. But the romance, that quiet undercurrent, bloomed in the chaos. As the dean called for order, Javi pulled Alex aside, behind the velvet curtain of the stage wing, the roar fading to a distant hum. "Hey!" he said softly, cupping Alex's face, thumbs brushing away tears. "You were magnificent. Like, Obama-level magnificent." Alex laughed, a broken sound that mended as Javi kissed him. Gentle, grounding, tasting of salt and sunflowers. "I love you," Javi whispered against his lips. For every fierce, flawed inch, in that stolen breath, amid the unraveling, it was pure romance. Two men forging forever from the fragments. Outside, the conflict simmered. Marco retreated to the grass, head in hands, Elena joining him with Sophia between. The crowd dispersed in waves, but not before enveloping Alex in hugs, business cards pressed into his palm. "Call me if you need a job in D.C." And one elderly alumnus, silver hair gleaming, clasping his hand. "You reminded us why we fight, son. Keep going." It was humanistic, this outpouring, proof that in America's fractured heart, grace could bloom from gravel. As the sun dipped, casting long shadows over the quad, Alex approached his family, Javi a step behind. Marco looked up, eyes red-rimmed, the fight extinguished. I don't understand it, Alejandro, but seeing them, all of them, standing for you, maybe I don't have to." It wasn't absolution, not yet, but a crack in the door. Elena stood, hugging Alex fiercely, whispering, "Te quiero mijo. Always." Sophia thrust the crumpled card at him. A crayon drawing of Yale's gates, with stick figure Alex holding a diploma and a rainbow flag. "For your new family," she said shyly, glancing at Javi. The moment stretched, emotional and taut, the thrill of possibility hanging heavy. Alex nodded, throat too full for words, and extended a hand to Marco. His father took it, grip tentative, the calluses a map of shared history. Not reconciliation, but a truce, human, imperfect, laced with the promise of more. Night fell over New Haven like a velvet curtain, the quad emptying into afterparties that pulsed with bass from frat houses and laughter from rooftop bars. Alex walked the cobblestone paths of cross-campus, Javi's hand warm in his, Sophia chattering about her school's talent show while Elena trailed, arm linked with Marco's in a silence that spoke volumes. The betrayal's sting lingered, a bruise under the skin, but the crowd's response had cauterized it, turned venom to vaccine. "That was some real-life movie shit," Javi said, bumping Alex's shoulder, his grin a beacon in the lamplight. "You think Spielberg's scouting?" Alex chuckled, the sound lighter than it had been in hours. "Only if they cast you as the hot sidekick." But beneath the banter, emotion churned. Gratitude for Javi's unshakable presence, sorrow for the years lost to silence, a fierce protectiveness for Sophia who'd borne the brunt of their parents' war. They'd piled into a rented Prius after the ceremony. Marco behind the wheel, jaw set but eyes softer, and driven to a diner off Route 34, the kind with checkered floors and pie under glass domes. Over greasy burgers and milkshakes, the conversation stumbled forward, halting and human. Elena broke the ice, stirring her coffee with a spoon that clinked like wind chimes. "Your speech. It was beautiful, mijo. Like poetry from your abuela's old books." Marco grunted, pushing fries around his plate, but didn't interrupt. Sophia, strawberry mustache from her shake, piped up, "Can I come visit? See the library where you study." Alex's heart swelled, and he nodded, ruffling her hair. "Anytime, Soph. We'll make it an adventure. Javi's got this killer spot by the harbor for ice cream." Javi, ever the charmer, leaned in. "And I'll teach you how to spot the best graffiti. Street art, not vandalism, promise." Marco's eyes narrowed at the casual "we," but he said nothing, chewing methodically. The diner hummed around them, truckers at the counter, a couple in the booth behind arguing over wedding colors, America's everyday symphony underscoring their fragile détente. It was romantic in its quiet way. Not grand gestures, but the romance of possibility, of Javi's foot nudging Alex's under the table, a silent "we're okay." Back at the apartment, a shoebox walk-up in Westville with creaky floors and posters of Frida Kahlo peeling at the edges. The real emotions surfaced. Sophia crashed on the futon, out cold amid a nest of throw pillows, while Elena and Marco took the air mattress in the living room, their whispers filtering through the thin walls like smoke. Alex and Javi retreated to the bedroom, door clicked shut, the space a sanctuary of their making. Books stacked like Jenga towers, a string of Edison bulbs casting a golden haze. Javi pulled him down onto the bed, untying his shoes with deliberate care, as if each lace were a thread in the tapestry of their day. "You held it together out there," Javi murmured, sliding up to cradle Alex's head in his lap. "Stronger than I could've." Alex stared at the ceiling, cracks spiderwebbing like veins, and let the dam break. "I wanted them to see me, really see me. Not the version they could stomach." Tears came hot and unbidden, soaking Javi's jeans. Javi stroked his hair, voice a low rumble. "They did, amor. Maybe not all the way, but enough to show up. That's a start." They lay like that, tangled in the afterglow of survival, Javi's fingers tracing lazy patterns on Alex's arm, circles for the earth they'd reshape, lines for the boundaries they'd redraw. It was deeply romantic, this vulnerability. Two men bearing souls in the dim light of a city that didn't know their names. Love as the ultimate act of defiance. Morning brought the conflict's aftershocks. Over bodega coffee and bagels on the fire escape, Marco cleared his throat, voice gruff as gravel. "I read your email. Finally. After your mom made me." He pulled a folded printout from his wallet, edges frayed, ink smudged from handling. "Didn't know what to say then. Still don't, mostly." Elena nodded, eyes downcast, but her hand found Alex's across the metal railing. "We were scared, Mijo, of losing you two. This life." Sophia, munching a bagel, rolled her eyes. "It's not a life, Mom. It's just Alex being Alex." The words hung, a bridge or a bomb. Alex leaned forward, elbows on knees, the city waking below. Horns blaring, joggers pounding pavement. "It's my life, Dad. All of it. Javi's part of that. The crowd yesterday. That's my world now. People who lift instead of lash." Marco's jaw worked, a muscle ticking, and for a heartbeat, Alex braced for explosion. But then a sigh, "Saw that. The way they rallied. Like you were one of theirs." It wasn't endorsement but acknowledgement, a humanistic concession, raw and real. The day unfolded in tentative steps. A walk through the Yale Art Gallery, where Sophia marveled at the Basquiats, declaring, "Uncle Javi, you're artsy too," drawing a surprised laugh from Marco. Lunch at Frank Pepe's, white clam pies devoured amid stories of Alex's college escapades, edited for family ears. By afternoon, as they packed the car for the drive home, the betrayal felt less like a chasm, more like a scar. Tender, but healing. Elena hugged Javi awkwardly, whispering, "Take care of him," and Marco clapped Alex's shoulder, grip firm. "Make us proud out there, however you do it." Watching the Prius disappear down Wally Avenue, taillights fading into the haze, Alex turned to Javi, chest tight with a cocktail of relief and ache. "Think they'll make it?" Javi pulled him close, chin on his shoulder. "They already did. By coming." By seeing. The romance resurfaced then, soft and sure. A kiss under the sycamores, birdsong as witness, the thrill of what lay ahead. Law school for Alex, graphic design gigs for Javi, a life stitched from shared dreams. Weeks blurred into summer's languid rhythm. Alex interned at a queer advocacy nonprofit in Hartford, drafting policy briefs that echoed his thesis, while Javi freelanced murals for local businesses, his vibrant strokes turning brick walls into stories. Letters arrived from Ohio, Elena's recipes clipped from magazines, Sophia's doodles of superheroes and capes, even Marco's postcards from the county fair, postmarked with a single line. Sophia, one blue ribbon for pie. Thought of your abuela. No mention of it. But the silence was softer now, laced with curiosity. The real climax, though, brewed in August, when Marco called unannounced. Need advice, he grunted, voice tinny over the line. Sophia's school. Some kids bullying her. Calls her tomato for her red hair. Teacher says it's kids being kids. What would you do? Alex paused, Javi's hand squeezing his from across the kitchen table. It was a test, this vulnerability, a crack in the patriarchal armor. I'd show up, Alex said finally. Talk to the principal. Remind them words cut deeper than sticks. A beat? Then yeah. Okay. Click. The call ignited the emotional core, the deep-laid affection Alex had buried under resentment. He flew home the next weekend. Javi in tow despite Marco's grumbled. No need for the +1. Ohio welcomed them with fields golden under harvest moon. The air crisp with apples and regret. The farmhouse stood sentinel, porch light flickering like a hesitant beacon. Elena enveloped them in flower-dusted hugs, Sophia dragging Javi to see her new easel. Marco waited in the kitchen, coffee steaming, eyes on the floor. Heard you on the radio, he said abruptly, shoving a local NPR printout across the table. Alex's interview on queer rights post-graduation. Sounded smart. Dinner was a minefield of small talk. Crops, weather, Sophia's soccer tryouts. But the undercurrent thrummed with unspoken drama. After, as fireflies danced outside, Marco pulled Alex onto the porch swing, the wood creaking under their weight. I was wrong, he said, staring at the horizon where stars pricked the indigo sky. About a lot. Church says one thing, but seeing you up there with that crowd says different. Tears gleamed on his weathered cheeks, the admission a thunderclap in the quiet. Alex gripped his hand, the betrayal's ghost exorcised in that clasp. I never stopped being your son, Dad. Javi watched from the doorway, his own eyes misty, the romance of the scene etching into his artist's soul. Later, in the guest room with its faded quilt and childhood posters, they made love, not urgent, but reverent. Slow explorations, whispers of I see you and forever mine. Bodies a language of forgiveness and fire. It was the heart of their story. This love, human, heated, healing. Fall arrived in New Haven like a prodigal son, leaves turning the streets to flame, the air sharp with cider and change. Alex started at Columbia Law, the ivy grind a welcome distraction from Ohio's echoes, while Javi's murals caught the eye of a Soho gallery, his first solo show slated for spring. Their apartment upgraded to a one-bedroom in Morningside Heights, walls alive with Javi's canvases and Alex's casebooks, a nest of ambition and ease. Letters from home piled up, Elena's care packages of tamales frozen solid, Sophia's essays on My Brother the Hero, Marco's emails, terse but thawing, fixed the tractor, reminded me of you, stubborn as hell. The conflict, though, wasn't vanquished. It simmered, testing the fragile peace. Thanksgiving brought the invitation. All of you, Elena insisted over the phone, her voice a plea wrapped in hospitality. Alex hesitated, the old wounds itching, but Javi's "we're in this together" tipped the scale. The drive to Ohio was a gauntlet of nerves. Javi humming Bad Bunny to cut the tension, Alex rehearsing boundaries like closing arguments. The farmhouse glowed against the November dusk, turkey aromas wafting like olive branches. Dinner unfolded with scripted grace. Sophia's place cards ensuring Javi sat beside her. Elena's grace laced with, bless this family, whole and healing. Marco carved the bird with steady hands, passing plates without comment. But his eyes lingered on Javi's easy banter with Sophia. The way Alex's laugh filled the room unshadowed. Conversation skirted edges. Politics, deflected. Faith, treaded lightly. Until pie and coffee, when Marco cleared his throat. Read about that case you're on, trans kids in schools. Sounds like a fight. Alex blinked, fork midway to mouth. It is. Upholding rights against pushback. Marco nodded, slow. Your abuela would have marched for it. Feisty like you. It was the closest to apology yet. A humanistic bridge built of shared blood and budding respect. Javi squeezed Alex's knee under the table, his touch a romantic anchor amid the emotional tide. Later, as snow dusted the fields, they bundled into coats for a walk. The four of them, Marco trailing with a flashlight, Sophia skipping ahead. Javi and Alex fell back, hands brushing, breaths clouding in the cold. This is us, Javi whispered, stealing a kiss behind the barn, quick and sweet. Your family, my love, blended, beautiful. Christmas amplified the romance, a whirlwind of lights and longing. Back in the city, Javi surprised Alex with a trip to the High Line. String lights twinkling over the Hudson, hot cocoa steaming in paper cups. Under a canopy of evergreens, Javi dropped to one knee, not with a ring but a sketch. Them, hand in hand at the farm, Sophia waving from the porch, Marco and Elena in the background, tentative smiles. Marry me? Javi asked, voice husky. Not today, but someday when the world's ready, or when we make it ready. Alex pulled him up, kissing him fierce and deep, tears freezing on lashes. Yes, 1,000 times. The new year dawned with thrills both grand and gritty. Alex's article on queer policy hit the Times op-ed page, sparking a media storm. Fox News hit pieces met with MSNBC panels. The crowd's response from graduation amplified into national echo. Protests erupted in Ohio, counter-protests too, and Marco called amid the fray. Sophia's school read your piece. Teacher used it in class. Kid who bullied her? Apologized. Pride swelled, laced with fear. The betrayal's shadow in every threat, every slur scrawled on their building. But the climax revisited in spring, Javi's gallery opening a glittering affair in Chelsea. Murals of queer icons reimagined as American revolutionaries. Harriet Tubman with a rainbow sash, Alex as a caped crusader mid-speech. The crowd poured in, Columbia profs, Hartford activists, even Elena and Sophia, flown up on Marco's dime. Business expense, he grumbled. Marco himself stayed home, citing hay season, but sent a note tucked in Elena's purse. Knock 'em dead, son. Love, Dad. The gallery thrummed, champagne flutes clinking, admirers clustering around Javi's work. Alex watched from the fringes, heart full, as Sophia declared a piece super cool. Elena teared up at the Ladings motifs. Then, the drama crested. A heckler, burly and buzzed, slurring freak show at the door. Security moved in, but Alex stepped forward, voice steady. This is art. This is us. Leave or join the conversation. The man faltered, crowd murmuring support, and slunk away. Javi found Alex after, pulling him into a storeroom amid stacked crates. My hero, he breathed, kissing him slow, hands roaming with romantic reverence. Collars unbuttoned, breaths mingling, a celebration of survival. To moments we deserve, Javi toasted later, glasses raised to the room, Elena beaming beside them. Summer circled back to Yale for Alex's thesis panel, now a master's extension, his work evolving into a book deal. The Quad, lush and familiar, hosted the event, grads from years past mingling with fresh faces. No family this time, Ohio commitments, but the crowd, they remembered, as Alex spoke of betrayal's bomb, of love's radical rewrite. Applause thundered anew, signs waving. Still here for Alex. Javi filmed it all, dimples deep, love in every frame. The ending came quiet, humanistic, on a July evening back home. Marco met them at the airport alone, a sign in his truck window, Rivera party of whatever. Over backyard barbecue, ribs smoking, Sophia on Javi's shoulders. The talk turned deep. I was scared, Marco admitted, beer in hand, fireflies winking, of losing you to something I couldn't fix. But you fixed me, Alejandro. You and him. He nodded at Javi, who grinned back. Elena linked arms with them all, Sophia giggling. It wasn't fairy tale perfect. No grand redemption arc, but real. A family reforged in fire. Emotions laid bare. Romance the thread binding wounds to wonders. Alex raised his bottle, voice thick. To the moments we deserve, and the people who give them. Glasses clinked, laughter rose, and in that American heartland glow, under stars vast as forgiveness, Alex knew. The crowd had started it, but love finished it. Deep, dramatic, enduring.